Hello fellow cinephiles, Film Guru here. Today I'm reviewing Shazam. This was directed by David F. Sandsberg, the man behind Lights Out and Annabelle Creation, and stars Zachary Levi, Mark Strong and Digimon Houston. This is a story of Billy Batson, a 14-year-old foster child who's passed around from foster home to foster home, always escaping, always running away. He's ultimately searching for his mother. He wants to know what happened to her and why she hasn't come to find him, and this becomes his obsession, trying to find out who she is, where she is and why she left him. Ultimately he's put into a foster home with a variety of other kids where he's reluctant to get involved in the family dynamic or become close with these group of kids because he thinks that he's going to just leave them anyway. He ultimately forms a strong relationship with Freddie Freeman, one of the young foster children in the home that he's currently occupying. After confronting two bullies that were attacked Freddie, Billy Batson obviously runs away and ultimately is transported to a mysterious realm where he meets the wizard Shazam, ultimately looking for a person pure of heart to take over from him. He's getting older and his powers are starting to wane and he wants to pass it on to somebody else, and he picks Billy Batson and say his name and he will be endowed with all his powers. Billy reluctantly does this and ultimately he becomes Shazam. He's now this 14-year-old boy who gets transformed into a man who has these unique special abilities. With the help of Freddie, who is well versed in the superhero lore due to Superman and Batman existing within this world, he ultimately helps Billy work out what abilities he has and tries to help shape him into the superhero he thinks he can become. Things don't go according to plan. Billy sort of becomes a bit selfish and goes off and does his own thing, and ultimately he's confronted by a new villain. This is Dr. Thaddeus, played by Mark Strong, and it ultimately involves a battle between these two. Billy as Shazam doesn't know if he can defeat this villain. He doesn't know if he can be the hero everybody wants him to be. He struggles not knowing what to do or where he fits in or his place in the world. And this is his big opportunity, but he's fearful of not being able to do it. And he always thinks about himself first, puts him, focus on himself because no one else does. Along the way, he ultimately forms a strong bond with the other kids at the foster home, and this is where he starts to form his own family in a way, which is very interesting, unique, and this all leads to quite a big confrontation between Shazam and Dr. Thaddeus. And this ultimately sets up another superhero within the Justice League world, and this is an exciting new hero to watch, and this is ultimately Shazam. I really liked this film. When I first saw the trailer, I was really into it. I thought it was very interesting, and I thought it would be just a fun, entertaining ride, which this film really is. There is moments of drama, and it does have a lot of heart to it, but most of it is a very humorous and entertaining film, and I really got a lot out of this. This is David F. Sandsberg's first foray into the superhero genre and something away from the horror genre. And it's very interesting to see him try something different. I think he made a solid film. He made some interesting choices. I like a lot of the shots. I like the way it looks. I like the choices of music. And I really like the characters that inhabit this world that we get to meet and interact with, especially the foster children. They're all different, unique, and I quite like a lot of them, and all in different ways. And I thought that was quite an interesting thing. He's a character you can actually connect to, Billy Batson is. You can really connect to him and follow him on this journey, and you really care about him with the way they introduce him and how he evolves throughout the story and the film. I really like that aspect to it. And originally his name was Captain Marvel, and this came about when he was first created by Bill Fosse, who ultimately created this character and made him the superhero he became. And ultimately he was taken by DC and created and became Shazam. I didn't know a lot about this superhero going in. He's one of the superheroes I don't know a lot about. I did learn a bit about him from the graphic novel Kingdom Come, but I don't really know much about him. So it was sort of a refreshing and interesting look at this world and this character that I was unfamiliar with. There's things to this film I liked and things I didn't. So I thought I'd start with the things I didn't like as much. I felt that they spent too much time at the start of the film trying to introduce the the kid who would become the villain. I think they spent way too much time on that and not enough time on Billy Batson. And it's really Billy Batson's story and Shazam's movie that I don't know why they spent so much time on the villain. I know in a lot of these superhero movies the villains aren't always great unless they're iconic and well known, and I think they did they tried to introduce this villain in a certain way. Now there's nothing wrong with that, I just felt that they spent a bit too much time on that. Ultimately with Dr. Thaddeus, there are the 7 deadly sins that take form, monster form. And I just felt that these characters or these designs of these characters wasn't a great idea. I didn't understand why we had to see them and they were part of this Dr. Thaddeus. I just felt that was a silly idea and it felt too much rooted in horror films and I didn't think we really needed that. I thought Dr. Thaddeus was a good enough villain to have by himself with the abilities that he has rather than having these other characters as part of him. I just felt that was a stupid idea and I didn't really like them too much. I feel the film has a little bit of pacing issues here and there, especially in the second act. But overall, I thought it was an entertaining and fun film. Not all the jokes hit. Most of them did, some of them didn't, but I still liked that. I think Zachary Levi did a fantastic job playing this character. The things I liked about it was Zachary Levi. He was the real heart and soul of this film. He was fantastic. You really believed he was inside a 14-year-old boy who becomes a man and a superhero. You really believe that. He has great comic timing and has some great humorous moments throughout the film and adds a lot of humor to this film, which I really love. And ultimately, it wasn't until he appeared that I really got into the story. I found the first half of it kind of interesting with the Billy Batson stuff. Like I said, they spent too much time with the villain. But once Zachary Levi appears as Shazam, this is where it really takes off and becomes a fun and entertaining film. I like the look of it. I think this is a much better film than Captain Marvel and Aquaman, and it's a character I can really get behind and a story I can really get into. You really feel for this Billy Batson who's gone from foster home to foster home and is trying to find his mother. You really connect to that, I think, and that gives a lot of heart and soul to the film, which I really liked. I think the side characters are really good, the other foster kids. I think Freddy's a really good character, played by Jack Dillon. He adds a lot of humour and great moments, and he's very, very funny, and he's a standout within this film alongside Zachary Levi, and their relationship and chemistry on screen is fantastic. A newcomer I haven't seen a lot of, Asher Angel plays Billy Batson. I think he does a solid job as Billy Batson. He's sort of a prickly sort of young teen character, but you can sort of real feel for him and get behind the character and enjoy and really get on board with the journey he's going through. There's another actress I haven't seen a lot of called Faith Herman, and she plays Darla, which is the young sister of ultimately the foster kids. And she's really funny and has some great moments in the film. She's a standout along with Jack Dillon and Zachary Levi. And I think all three of them did a really fantastic job and added a lot of humour and great heart and elements to this film I really liked. Ultimately, I don't think that Mark Strong's a really strong villain, Dr. Thaddeus. We don't really know a lot about him. They did try and set him up at the start of the film, which took half an hour, but it just didn't really connect to him. I didn't really like him as much as I thought I would. And he's sort of a much better actor. If you've seen him in movies like Rock and Roller, you really see that he's a talented actor and has great ability and range and depth, but he seems to be continuously playing villains all the time. And they're all sort of a bit cliche, and there isn't a lot of depth to them. And with the addedness of the creatures that follow him around, it's just not a great and interesting villain. I think they could have gave him a much more interesting character, or got a different actor, or looked at a different sort of villain than they did. There's a lot of tie-ins to this film to Justice League. I think it was written around that time. And there's some really great moments in it where they make fun of being a superhero ultimately. And it's quite clever. There's one particular scene where Dr. Thaddeus and Shazam are about to fight, and they're about 100 meters away, and Dr. Thaddeus is saying all this villainy stuff, and then you cut to Shazam and he can't hear a word he's saying. And I thought that was kind of clever and very funny moments, and they make fun of it along the way in many different ways, and I kind of like that. They're very self-aware, and they're not scared to make fun of themselves along the way, and this is something I really enjoyed from this film and got a lot out of. It's definitely one to watch, and I really am looking forward to more sequels to this film. Much more than Captain Marvel or Aquaman. I think this is a good franchise. I think you could start with Shazam, you could do a number of movies, and you can put him in other superhero things as well. I think this is a good way to sort of reboot the characters and add something fresh and new to the DC landscape that's ultimately being surrounded by a lot of controversy as well as too much darkness and not enough light. And Justice League was trying to do something a bit lighter, but it just didn't ultimately work, where I feel this film does work on many levels. And it would have been the best way they could have done Justice League, by introducing Shazam within it and doing a more interesting and fun film that this film actually is. Final verdict. Look, if you're a fan of comic book films, if you like superheroes done in a different way, if you like a comical look at a superhero, you might enjoy this. I thoroughly enjoy it and I recommend it to everyone, and I think it'll cover young kids up to adults. I think it's a great film in that regard. I'm going to give Shazam 4 out of 5. I enjoyed myself here. I thought it was an entertaining and fun film. Zachary Levi is a real highlight for me in this film, and I really would like to see some more sequels to this and more of the Shazam world, because I really like what I was exposed to and experienced within this film. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit subscribe at the bottom. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.